Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 10 of Trigun, and we just met Wolfwood, which is really exciting. I have a feeling I'm going to like Wolfwood's character a lot because I really enjoyed him in the last episode. His chemistry with Vash seems really, really good. He's mysterious. He's like the tall, dark, and handsome archetype. I have a feeling I'm gonna enjoy his character, but it's like he just left, so I'm like, when's he coming back? Like, are you really gonna tease us show and make us wait till like the end of the series to see him come back? I hope not. So, but I really enjoyed last episode, and so I couldn't wait. I need to record ahead, so I was like, I'll just go ahead and watch some more Trigun. So here we are, right? So I wanted to give a very quick shout out over to Patreon, to our philanthropy tier patrons. You all are super awesome, super kind, and support me in lots of ways, and I really, really appreciate it. So a special shout out to Edgar, to Dana, to Anime Annie, to Nameless Monster, to Tyrone, to Shimoyama, to Be Happy, to Eric, to Sunspots, to Translucent Min, as well as Librarian of Lang, Kuba Lutek, Lou Genesis, Truck, Alex Cornejo, and Kiri. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your support. All of my love. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm really ready to go, and I can't wait. I woke up this morning, got ready, and was like, I want to watch some Trigun. So here we are. But we're going to see what happens in episode 10 and just truck right in, shall we? And we are going to do that here, looking at episode 10 of Trigun here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. Oh my. Oh, this was really good. This episode was very self-contained, but very good. Oh man, y'all, let's talk about this episode. I'm not gonna lie, as soon as I got done watching this episode, I started to have a migraine come on, so I had to stop this video so my hair looks a little bit different, because I had to like lay down for a while, like take some headache medicine, lay down. I was feeling awful, so I apologize if my reaction was not great, but about midway through the reaction, I started to feel really bad, and I was like, but I didn't want to stop because I'd already started the episode, so I apologize if my reaction was not the greatest, but I was like, I'm going to go lay down for a little while and feel better so that when I can come back, we can talk about this episode. So here I am. But man, I'm so surprised that we had Wolfwood show back up this soon, because they make you think in episode 9, they're like, oh, you see Wolfwood, and you're like, oh, you're not going to see him again for a while. And then it's like, sigh, here he is again. So they immediately brought him back, which I was really happy about. I was like, all right, cool. Glad that they decided to do that. But Quick Draw being the name of the episode, I'm wondering if there is a sort of a means behind the naming of the towns after months, if that's kind of a sign of distance, because you have May, June, July. Wolfwood says he's from December, which is the last month of the year. And that makes me think that like January and December are the farthest apart, and we're in May. And then I'm wondering if Vash comes from January. If he comes from January, or maybe January and December are close together and it's just like an island and they're all around. We don't know the answer to that question, but it makes me believe that May and July may be somewhat close to one another, because the girl from episode 6? I don't know, my dogs are being silly. The girl from episode 6 was from July. So maybe since we saw her and we're not that far away, maybe May and July are close together. So if we're traveling back to the epicenter of when Vash's, first lost his memory from the incident that happened at July, that could be interesting. If we're going back to that location, that could be rather intriguing, right? Because at this point, Meryl and Millie are just along for the ride. They're just along for the ride to keep tabs on Vash and make sure he doesn't destroy anything, which he's not so much lately. But I mean, the sand steamer was not his fault at all, and they managed to save it. So there's that, right? But I do like that we get Vash in like normal clothes in his pajama jams, like looking like a normal human being, right? He's just freakishly tall. But it shows him like Vash with his hair down. Hell yeah. Like I love Vash with his hair like all pushed down and everything. He spikes that to high heavens. The birds are interesting. The birds look very fantasy like, where he says good morning birdies. And the thing about Vash is he gives us his monologue about himself at the start of this. He says, "My name is Vash the Stampede." That's what he's called. And he's like, "I have been a hunter of peace who chases the mayfly known as love." And a hunter of peace is interesting because you have a hunter of peace, like somebody that hunts, so he has a gun, right? He's on the lookout trying to find it. And love is his prey, necessarily. Like peace is his prey, chasing the mayfly known as love. We were talking actually about mayflies in the Discord today, which is really funny. Mayflies are these freakishly looking bugs that look terrifying, but they're harmless, which is a nice, apt reflection on love. But mayflies don't live very long. They're very like come and go. They're like butterflies. They're here and then they're gone. And so chasing the mayfly known as love is rather interesting because it seems very fleeting, right? And so saying for many, many moons now. I was fully waiting for Vash to tell us how long he'd been chasing it. And I was like, of course the show is not going to give us that. They're going to give us this mayfly known as love for many moons now to not let us know. There is no rest for me in my search for peace. And his gun says EF auto doble, which means double. So, I mean, I guess that's double barrel. But yeah, in my search for peace, there's no rest. So the question is, where is he searching for peace at? And is he just is he searching for peace? Is he spreading peace? We're not exactly sure. But he says there's no rest. I meditate diligently every morning. I love it. It shows him like just sitting there meditating. The subjects are life and love. And it lasts about 3 seconds. So he's like, I try to meditate. I try to do good, but it only lasts about 3 seconds. Like he's not committed, right? I love him with his hair down though. And then the whole thing where he practices with the egg. Practices is holding it on the gun, right? Just practices steadying there, right? Just to keep it steady. I search for peace. I have to train diligently, like keeping his gunsmith duties. And him holding it and doing this with the gun is really, really good. I love it. And then, of course, the egg falls. And that's when he cracks it and makes himself the toast. Thanks, friend, and farewell. So that whole thing is very curious. Thanks, friend, and farewell. He said that like a number of times. He said that to the computers. He said that above the plant. And at first, I thought he was talking maybe to the technology saying thank you and farewell. But when he says it to the egg, like, thank you, friend, and farewell, it almost is giving me like a Pocahontas vibe where she's like, you know, everything in the world has a spirit. The earth, the trees, everything has spirits in them. And so I'm wondering if Vash is like treating like every single thing, whether it's a computer, whether it's a plant, whether it's an egg, everything has like a life force to it. Has an energy, and he's just like, thank you for the nourishment. Thanks, friend, and farewell. Like, I wonder if that's the case, right? Also make note that his jacket hanging up on the wall, the one sleeve is cut short because he has like, but it shows it like as if it had a robot hand, but his hand holding the newspaper is not robotic. So I'm like, that's so fascinating because I thought he had a robot hand, but his hand holding the newspaper is not a robot. So either that's an animation inconsistency and they just goofed, or if his hand's not robotic, how did it stop the robots? Like, what's the deal? What's the deal, show? Why won't you give us answers? Because we're going to find out later, of course. Fascinating. And that's when he sees the kids hanging outside, like, come out and play with us. He says, it's also my mission to teach the precious value of peace to the children who will one day own the world. Which is a very admirable, like, noble thing. You're going to teach peace to the kids that are going to inherit the earth. Yes, of course. Why wouldn't we? But the problem, of course, is that those kids are ruffians. And it's Vash, I feel like the kids teasing Vash and torturing him with the wrestling moves is a very strong metaphor for his journey as a whole. It's not something that he's going to change overnight. It's not something that he's going to like instantly accomplish. Instead, it's just something he's repetitively doing over and over again until he hopefully manages to get it right. I feel like Vash's goal is to change mindsets, but it's a work in progress, right? It's not something that's going to instantly occur, right? And so then Millie's been watching him for days now. She's like, oh, Mr. Vash has been put in strangholds by the children again. I love Millie. She's great. And poor Meryl with her like portable typewriter. She's like, that's nice. And he said, I'll say it again. My name is Vash the Stampede. I'm a hunter of peace who chases the mayfly known as love. Quick draw. Yep, I love that we get a little bit more of Vash, a little bit more about his mission to spread peace, hope, and love wherever he goes, and that mission is often faced with trials and tribulations. And so the thing about it is that he gets the kids to help him, and the kids help him to chase after women and flirt with them, which he's an impossibly horrible flirt, right? He like chases the girl Michelle and he falls down in front of her like he's bleeding to death. And it's ketchup. And I do appreciate that the ketchup gag is something that comes back at the end. The ketchup gag is something that comes back at the end of the episode being used by him and Wolfwood. I like that this episode set it up and then it brings it back. It's a nice little callback. Nice little preview there. But, dude, collapsing in front of a lady bleeding and then using it as a flirtation technique, maybe not the best idea. Maybe not the best means, right? Because he says, Eileen or Aileen. He's like, you look very much like my girlfriend who died. I'm like, oh, the old dead girlfriend routine, right? Like, he's pretty hopeless. I'm like, Vash, dude, I don't know why you thought that was going to work. And she just instantly turns him down. And the kids are like, oh, the strategy's far too difficult, Captain. And that's when they see Neil. Now, the thing about Neil is that Neil's carrying around the briefcase. He's like, oh, do you want to join in, Neil? And said he has the case of things. And at first I thought that the case of things Neil had was pretty nefarious. I thought it was like he was working kind of like the kid on the sand steamer working with a nefarious partner. But no. Then you find out that the case has the emblem of the restaurant on it. So Neil was just doing odd jobs, right? But he's very sad because he sees other kids hanging out with their dads, and he wishes that his dad, we'll talk about the dad, that his dad was there for him as well. I love that Meryl's like, what the fudge are you doing? How long do you think this self-indulgent lifestyle of doing nothing but playing with children and eating and sleeping without doing work is going to last? Meryl is like, get a job, you bum. I ship Vash and Meryl so hard in this show, but Vash and Wolfwood have also won me over too. But I love that Meryl's just like, get a job, you bum. And the kids are like, oh no, a lecture. Only a wimp would take that kind of abuse. And Vash is like, you don't understand. It's not worth it. And that's when he sees like the dad with the kid. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? The kid says, none of your business. He's like, oh, don't be so cross with me. He's like, do you have something? Can I have something to eat? And all the boys like, you're not getting any handouts. Don't hit on my mom. Like, this kid understands. He's like, don't hit on my mom. She's really hot. And there's already some other guy chasing after her. Of course, his mother's beautiful. And Vash is like, wow. And then Wolfwood just instantly pops in. He's like, come on in. And Vash falls down. I will note that Vash and Wolfwood's chemistry is off the charts. It is so good. Even when I was feeling rotten in this episode, I could not help but laugh at these two. It was absolutely amazing. He's like, don't wreck the place. And Wolfwood's like, what are you doing? He's like, what are you doing here? And Wolfwood's like, I'm helping out. Can't you tell? And then he's like, we've got to help this woman. And he's like, I'm just doing it because I want to. And that's when he gets to Vash and he's like, look, before I came in here to eat with my cross-gun arsenal that I've carried with me. And that's when the mom was being roughhoused. I love that Wolfwood says, like, I made them pay with the gospel. like for Wolfwood, the gospel is his arsenal and him, like, just shooting at them. I'm like, Wolfwood, my dude. I love it. I love that how he describes it. He's like, well, things being as they were, I just talked him out of it with a little help of his gospel. So yeah, Wolfwood using the Lord's means, right? Using the Lord's means. And then he's like, she says that her husband's left with all these debts and she keeps running the place. Like, he's like, isn't it awful? Don't you think we should do something? Even the little boy is desperate to help his mother. He's like, it shot me through the heart. And Vash is like, well, so that's how it was. I love that Vash and Wolfwood. I love the two of them both have this similar heart, similar humor. Like, they're both, like, they're just so perfect. But you know what? I'm sure a lot of people ship Wolfwood and Vash, and I don't blame them. After this episode, I'm like, yes, their chemistry is off the charts. However, Vash and Wolfwood are a prime example of two people that are too alike to be a couple. They're too similar. No. I mean, if you ship Vash and Wolfwood, I get it. Like, I'm right there with you. But all of the other, like, BL ships that I know of, there's at least, like, there's a big difference between them. They balance each other out in different ways, and that's the kind of ships that I like. Like, you have Kagami and Kuroko from Kuroko's Basketball. They balance each other out. They're very different. Opposites attract, but they have a similar core, right? You have characters from Vinland Saga. I'm not going to say who because it would be spoilers, that are similar but different. But they're different enough in ways that balance each other out. And so I feel like Vash is so crazy and bonkers that he needs somebody like Meryl, who's very straight-laced, to balance out his crazy, right? And Wolfwood is the same kind of crazy that Vash is. So Vash and Wolfwood together is like crazy on top of crazy. It's great, but I don't see it having sustainability. But you know what? I'm a multi-shipper, gladly to be one. So I'm happy to ship Wolfwood and Vash and Meryl and Vash, but Meryl and Vash have my heart, but I will not deny the chemistry and fun that the Vash Wolfwood ship is. I'm not going to deny it. It's great. But they're just so similar in this, right? And that's how it was. So sad. And he's like, isn't it? Don't you think so? And he's like, incredibly so. I love that these two are just together. And he's like, now you've saved me some trouble, because he's like, we have this we can do. And he lays it down. We're going to look for you. We were going to look for you once we closed up shop. And it's like the great event at May City, the third quick draw. Please abide the committee for $50,000. All right, so we have, April 14th, April 1st? It says April 1st instead of 14th of 0131. Okay, so we have a timeline. I'm going to get my phone out and get my calculator out. We have a timeline. We have a timeline. We have a timeline. Okay. So, timeline in this, we had 0131 minus 01114. Let me get this right. No, I'm wrong here. 0131 minus 0114. 17 years. Okay, so it had been 17 years since the woman engineer in Lost July had seen Vash since the incident. And Vash looked like he was 20 then, so he should technically be almost 40 now, but he doesn't look that at all. Okay, good. Glad we've got some timeline stuff happening. Good. Good. So yeah, so it's been 17 years since the July incident, almost 20 years. Yeah, that explains why everybody's kind of like, you're Vash the Stampede? Because he looks so young. Okay, good to know. I'm glad we're getting some context clues in this, right? And he's like, the third annual quick draw tournament, and $50,000 is the prize. And he's like, well, that's going to be enough to help pay off the debts. So all you have to do is show up there tomorrow. You just show up and that'll be fine. And I'll take care of the registration for you. And Vash is like, why me? And he's like, we're helping people, and you're a good shot. He's like, would you rather I turn you in and get the $60 billion instead? And he's like, well, that's not funny, pal. He's like, don't be serious. He's like, just look at her. Isn't that a sad face? Yeah. Isn't that a beautiful face? Yeah. He's like, come on, you're going to let a maiden in distress. And he says, for love and peace. I'm like, what bros? What bros? Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. I'm like, they're both after helping the pretty women, so bros for life. I'm all for them being best bro friends. See? I'm all for it, right? And then I love Meryl instantly is like, this is a really dangerous contest, and as a representative for the insurance company, we're not really advising you to do this. I love that Meryl's like, what are you doing? And it's not until she figures out why Vash is doing this that she gets like the merits of it, and she's like, fine, I get why you're doing this, whatever. And then Millie's like, if you get the prize money, treat me to something, right? And Meryl's like, there's gonna be all these people trying to get the money, like, what are you doing? What I am surprised about is, I guess we do get the reveal of the man behind the curtain, but he doesn't really do anything in this episode. That's what was surprising. He shows up and watches Vash, because he doesn't have a mustache or anything. He's not the guy that has the two faces, right? He shows up and watches everything go down, but he doesn't show himself in this episode. So he's going to come back at some point and be a problem. So that's the thing. We get an antagonist like preview, but not really a reveal. Now, I do love the drinking scene with Vash and Wolfwood. That for a priest to drink like he does. Also, this show has like no shame of like just showing product placement. Like they use Maker's Mark and Jim Beam and Wild Turkey. They use like all these Western whiskey names that I'm like, really? All right. Were you paid promotion by these whiskey companies? And he says, you said you came from a church. Where is it? It's 300 aisles from December, which is a ways. He's like, you take orphans that far away. He says, I can't help but bring them there. Kids I run into who have kids, their parents have been killed or abandoned kids. But I don't want to take Neil there. He's like, Neil still has his mom, and I don't want him to end up without a mom. He's like, no, don't want that to happen. I want him to be able to stay here. I love it. And Vash gives him that smile. It's really hard not to ship them when Vash smiles so fondly at Wolfwood. But then they both like make a pact to help a beautiful lady. And it's like, okay, come on now. And he's like, there you go. It's that smile again. It suits you. I love it. And then I love Wolfwood is extremely perceptive. Where he's like, come on in, ladies. Quit eavesdropping. And I love that Millie's like, I'm ready to drink, bitches. I love that she like... Meryl does not seem like the type, although Meryl's like, do not let her have so much to drink. And then they're like, did Millie strip off her stuff? Did Millie strip off her clothes? Because they were like, you go, big girl. I'm like, did Millie strip off her clothes while she was drinking? And Meryl's like, please stop. I feel like maybe she did. But anyway, Vash feels like garbage the next day as all these people show up. I love the guy that fires the gun to light his cigar. That was just absolutely hilarious. I was like, that is wonderful. The guy lighting his gun. And then we see the man walking up that has, and he's walking with the face behind him, so that gives you a clue that it's a mask and it's all fake. I like that little foreshadowing there. It's great. You can kind of see the mask from under it. Mm-hmm. And then Mr. Vash and Wolfwood haven't arrived yet. I like that the girls are just going ahead and eating. They're like, whatever. And of course, Vash is hung over, and Wolfwood's like, dude, can't you hold your alcohol? We just had a few drinks. And then we go back to a few drinks. He's like, that's a few freaking Dallins. Yeah, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like 7 bottles of whiskey there that they went through and like 3 cigarettes. I'm like, dude, you guys got trashed. Between the 3 of you. And he's like, to each his own. I love that Wolfwood's like, well, somebody can't handle their liquor. Huh, who knew? Vash is like, look, I drink, but not as much as you. And then, of course, we see Vash, like, instantly hit the bottles, right? We see him instantly hit them. Yeah. And he didn't mean to hit all of them, but it just happens. He didn't mean to hit all of them, but he was drunk, and he accidentally just just shot and hit every single one. Yeah. It's great. I love it. Let me throw this toy for Huckleberry. I love it. It's great. And Wolfwood, of course, hits all the bottles too. And everybody, he's like, I'm standing out too much. I like that Vash didn't want to hit all the bottles at first. It's kind of like a Robin Hood scenario if you've ever watched Disney's Robin Hood or any iteration of Robin Hood when he goes to the archery contest. He doesn't want to immediately show off, but then it just comes out. That was the vibe I got with Vash and Wolfwood, right? And then Vash entered Wolfwood in the competition. Now, I am thoroughly convinced with the black gun that Wolfwood is the one in the OP. You have the one gun of Vash and the one gun of Wolfwood facing each other. I'm fully convinced that that's the case. Now, could be wrong. Could be somebody else's gun. That's just what I think. And then, of course, the kid and Neil and the mom are cheering Wolfwood on. Now, Wolfwood said in the last episode that he was not a gunsman, that he'd never held a gun before. What a liar. Because Millie's like, wow, you're a gunsman. He's like, no. He's like, we just live in a dangerous world and it's for self-protection. Bullshit. Like, you lied to Vash about ever firing a gun and you were really, really good. And Vash caught on to it, right? And that's when the guy shows up saying you're pretty good. But this is the end of your spree. You're not against no liquor bottles this time. It's a one-on-one combat. And the two of them are like, wait, what? And Vash is like, he's like, you didn't know? And what I love about this is that Vash doesn't want anyone to die. And so he has the rocks in his hand. And every time the people face each other, he just flicks the rock to throw off the trajectory of the bullet to where it hits their shoulder or something instead of their heart. I love it. I freaking absolutely love it. I like that Vash is committed to nobody getting hurt. And then the two of them, he's like, we go to the quarterfinals where they face off. And then, yep, he says, and then we see the guy there. The guy there, though, I don't think is the one that was in the shadows. I don't think so. And then we see the guy with the machine gun, and Wolfwood manages to get him. And then all these men are injured, but not killed. And they're like, oh my God, this is Vash the Stampede. And so that's when we see Nicholas D. Wolfwood having to face off against Vash because the woman and her son are being held at gunpoint. Right? So they go up against one another and they're both committed. Wolfwood's like, I've got to kill you to take the bounty and save the woman. And Vash is like, no, I'm not for that. We can find out another way to get this done. And he manages to shoot and like scuff Wolfwood's cheek, right? And they do their little shootout for a while. And then both of them have the moment where they shoot. And there's the ketchup bottles that end up getting hit. And it's a callback to the beginning of the episode. And they did it to draw out all the bounty hunters for the guy running the competition from afar to get them to come up to them. And that's when they reveal, oh no, we're actually not injured. We're actually quite all right. And they go after them with their guns. With the ketchup. I love it. The two of them together, it's absolutely great. And that's when he's like, girls, hand me my luggage. And they hand him the cross. Now, I didn't know what in the world the cross would be. I'm glad that Millie can just take her little pummel and pummel it to him. I didn't know what the cross would be. I was like, is the cross itself a gun? Is it some kind of weapon? What does it do? But it is actually a holder for his arsenal. He whips it out and it like comes out. It looks very futuristic. So it looks, I'm not going to lie, it looks a little bit like some kind of lost technology that would have been from a bygone era in this world. But it holds all these different guns that he can use. And these guns look rather futuristic. They look a little bit more futuristic than the Wild Wild West guns that we've seen so far. So there's more to Nicholas D. Wolfwood than meets the eye. I'm like, the D. Wolfwood, I'm like, is this One Piece? Does he have the power of the D? Does he have Will of D in him? Are we crossing over series in that regard? But yeah, I'm very curious. And it looks like there's like bats on the gun things, like Bacardi bats on the gun holders. I'm like, what is happening? But yeah, he manages to shoot the guns out of the guy's hands. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And Vash is like, huh. And then he says, I won't let any more children suffer. Never again. And he has the big dramatic lighting on his face. So we learn a lot about Nicholas D. Wolfwood. We learn that he's from December. He runs an orphanage 300 miles away from it. There's been a time in his life where children have suffered and he hates it. And so he's vowed to never let that happen again. He has a cross with all these guns on it. And he's kind of like Vash, where he doesn't want to kill anybody, but he also is using his weapons to save others. So, interesting indeed. And him and Vash seem to have a very similar conviction for peace and love. Right? And he's like, why'd you have to go and injure so many people? And he's like, what kind of churchman are you? And he says, nobody's dead. I kept my word. Because I like Vash throwing the thou shalt not kill in his face. And he's like, fine, be that way. I kept my word. And I love him just like slaying his tall, lanky body up on the table, being like, all right, I want prize money now, please. Thank you very much. He says, may God have mercy on your soul. Or should I change that to I collect the prize? I love that threat. He's like, I'll either like use the Lord's gospel on you, or you can give me the prize money. Love it. Absolutely love it. And they're like, okay, sure. All right, I'll pay it. But then, yeah, I'm like that one guy on top of the roof, right? We didn't ever see him, did we? And so then, of course, the kids get on to Wolfwood just like they did Vash. It's like Vash has, you know, been initiated into the system and become popular. And then we see the dad come back. Now, okay, the dad returns, right? The dad comes back, like, from being gone on a trip. Looks like the kid, but I'm just like, and he's like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, you bum! You didn't come back till after they paid your debt off? What a jerk! I mean, I'm sure it was just coincidence that it happened, but like, dude, you come back after everything's said and done? Whatever. And I love that both Vash and Wolfwood are out on the side where he's like, I'm out of a job. I love it. I love the blue and red combo that him and Wolfwood have. And he's like, for love and peace. And then there's all the kids to play with them. It's super cute. Yep. Super, super cute. So yeah, there we go. That's what we got. So I don't know if I wanted to go back and try to see if the man on top of the roof was the two-faced man, but I don't think that he was, because I think he was just a random guy. But in any case, so we may have not seen the last of the guy running the quick draw tournament and the guy with him. We may not have seen the last of him. We'll see, but I really liked this episode a lot. I loved learning more about Wolfwood. I love seeing Wolfwood and Vash together. They're such a good pair. They're so dynamic. I love that about them. I'm very curious to see, I guess Wolfwood's going to stay with the crew now because he's obviously on a quest for peace and love like Vash is. To our knowledge so far. But yeah, we'll see, right? So I'm very curious to know your guys' thoughts on this episode. I officially love Wolfwood. Nicholas D. Wolfwood is awesome. I can't wait to see more of him. I can't wait for more bro moments with him and Vash. And we're getting more and more slowly about the world and the lore. It's just coming in like breadcrumbs. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Trigun.